Hello and a very warm welcome to our program. You're watching One TV News Bulletin in English at 5. I'm Yanni Moutsios and these are today's top stories. At least 19 children and 2 adults shot dead at an elementary school, the worst school shooting since Sandy Hook nearly 10 years ago. Russia is ready to provide a humanitarian corridor for vessels carrying food to leave Ukraine in return for the lifting of some sanctions. Turkish officials will meet with Swedish and Finnish delegations in Ankara on Wednesday to discuss the NATO bids by the two Nordic countries. Prime Minister Mitsotakis, in a public discussion with the chair of the Economic Forum of Davos, sends a clear message to Turkish President: "I will defend Greece's sovereignty and its rights," Mitsotakis says. At least 19 children and 2 adults were fatally shot at an elementary school, the worst school shooting since Sandy Hook nearly 10 years ago. The gunman, an 18-year-old who attended a nearby high school, also died. Anguished families waited late at night on Tuesday to find out whether their children were among those killed by an 18-year-old gunman's rampers at an elementary school in the city of Uvalde hours earlier. Armed with multiple weapons, the gunman, who attended a nearby high school, killed at least 19 children and 2 adults at Drop Elementary School, the authorities said, in the deadliest school shooting since 20 children and 6 educators were killed at Sandy Hook Elementary in Newtown, Connecticut, 10 years ago. Several other children were injured in the shooting at Drop Elementary, including at least one 10-year-old who remained in critical condition at a nearby hospital. At least one teacher was among the dead, and the gunman, whom officials identified as Salvador Ramos, died at the scene. A 66-year-old woman who officials said was the gunman's grandmother had been shot at her home in Uvalde shortly before the massacre and was also in critical conditions. Classes were supposed to let out on Thursday for the summer, but instead of summer plans, parents were faced with the unthinkable Tuesday, waiting for hours for the dreaded confirmation about the fate of their children, some having provided DNA swabs to probe their relationship. Sobs could be heard outside the Civic Center, which was used as a makeshift reunification center. Some struggled to walk back to their cars after receiving the news. It was not immediately clear whether the shooting took place in one classroom or several, though that was actually confirmed later on, and officials did not release the names or ages of the students killed or of the teacher. At least 3 children, a 9-year-old and 2-year-olds, one in critical conditions, were taken to University Health Hospital in San Antonio for treatment. The massacre in Uvalde, which police said unfolded shortly before noon local time, amplified an already anguished national debate over firearms legislation. Coming up next, Russia is ready to provide a humanitarian corridor for vessels carrying food to leave Ukraine in return for the lifting of some sanctions. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has spoken again at the World Economic Forum in Davos on Wednesday morning. Reuters reports he told an audience that he was only willing to talk directly to Vladimir Putin and not via intermediators. He added that if the Russian president understands reality, there was the possibility of finding a diplomatic way out of the conflict. The Ukrainian president said Moscow should withdraw its troops back to the lines in place before Russia began its invasion on February 24th. That might be a first step towards talks, he said, adding that Russia has been playing for time in its talks with Ukraine. Yesterday, a close ally of Putin, Dmitry Medvedev, said any peace would have to recognize that final decisions had already been made about the future of the breakaway regions of Donetsk and Luhansk, and that any peace deal that suggested Russia should pull out of Crimea would be treated as a threat of war. Russia is ready to provide a humanitarian corridor for vessels carrying food to leave Ukraine in return for the lifting of some sanctions, the Interfax news agency cited Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Andrei Rudenko. Ukraine's Black Sea ports have been blocked since Russia invaded, with more than 20 million tons of grain stuck in silos in the country. We have repeatedly stated on this point that the solution to the food problem requires a comprehensive approach, including the lifting of sanctions that have been imposed on Russia exports and financial transactions, Rudenko was quoted as saying, according to Reuters. More to come. Prime Minister Mitsotakis, in a public discussion with the chair of the Economic Forum of Davos, sends a clear message to Turkish President: "I will defend Greece's sovereignty and its rights," Mitsotakis says. Turkish officials will meet with Swedish and Finnish delegations in Ankara on Wednesday to discuss the NATO bids by the two Nordic countries. Finland's Foreign Minister Pekka Haavisto said his country and Sweden would send delegations to the Turkish capital to try to resolve its opposition to their applications for membership in the military alliance. Sweden and Finland submitted their written applications to join NATO last week in a move that marks one of the biggest geopolitical ramifications of Russia's war in Ukraine and which could rewrite Europe's security map. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan rejected any bids from the Nordic countries to enter NATO, citing grievances with Sweden's and Finland's support to PKK terror organization. It also accused the two of imposing arms exports restrictions on Turkey and refusing to extradite terrorists. The Swedish and Finnish delegations are poised to take up Turkish grievances with Ibrahim Kalin, the spokesman of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and Turkish Deputy Foreign Minister Sedat Önal. The Swedish delegation would be headed by State Secretary Oskar Stenström, while Jukka Salovara, the Foreign Minister Undersecretary, would lead the Finnish delegation, Turkish officials have said. The United States continues to encourage its allies in NATO, including Greece and Turkey, to work together in order to preserve peace and security in the region and to resolve their differences in a diplomatic manner while avoiding rhetoric that stokes greater tension, a United States State Department spokesperson said on Tuesday. The spokesperson was asked to comment upon the recent statements made by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and how the US might respond if Turkey attacked Greece. Following the recent visit of Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis to Washington, the State Department spokesperson said that the US government had an important round of meetings with its Greek counterparts and knows that Greece is an irreplaceable ally and a key ally of the United States in NATO. Turkey, on the other hand, was an important US partner and an important ally in NATO, and Washington would like to see its partners cooperating to preserve peace and security in the region, State Department spokesperson noted. Prime Minister Mitsotakis, in a public discussion with the chair of the Economic Forum of Davos, sent a clear message to Turkish President following Erdogan's derogatory comments on Greece and himself personally. We're neighbors with Turkey. We will always need to talk. We will always need to keep channels of communications open. We're never going to be the ones who will not talk to our neighbors, Mitsotakis said. On the other hand, if President Erdogan thinks that I will not defend the sovereignty and the rights of Greece and its sovereign rights, or that I will not make the case to the international podiums that Turkey is behaving as a revisionist power, then he is wrong, Prime Minister Mitsotakis said. Let's now take a short glimpse of what the Prime Minister of Greece said in Davos.
Read in the news that your neighbor, President Erdogan, doesn't want to pick up the phone when you call in.
Well, I remember after March 2020 when Turkey tried to weaponize migration and send tens of thousands of desperate people across the Greek border, and we said no, and we defended the border of Greece, and we brought the leadership of the European Union to the Greek-Turkish border. President Erdogan was saying the same things. He doesn't want to talk to me. So maybe he'll change his mind, but again, but at the end of the day, on a more serious note, we're neighbors. We always need to talk, and we always want to keep channels of communication open. We're never going to be the ones who will not talk to our neighbors. On the other hand, if President Erdogan thinks that I will not defend the sovereignty and the sovereign rights of Greece, and I will not make the case to the international audience that Turkey is behaving as a revisionist power, then he's wrong. Because what we've seen, unfortunately, over the past 2 months is I went to Istanbul and had a meeting with President Erdogan, and it was, I thought it was a good meeting, but then a month later we saw an unprecedented number of overflights over our Greek islands, and this behavior is completely unacceptable, and I will raise that issue whenever I can until Turkey changes its behavior.
That's all from us for now. Stay here on One TV. Next news bulletin in Greek at 6 o'clock. Thank you for watching.